Cronin Toyota and Cronin Nissan are honored to partner with Proudly We Served, as well as the continued support of our local active and retired military veterans across eastern Indiana.
I'm Al Bledsoe, Veterans of Foreign War, Post 1108.
Hey, and I'm Ron Chappell. I'm chaplain for Vietnam Veterans, Chapter 777 here in the beautiful city of Richmond. And our guest this morning, we're really blessed to have Representative Brad Barrett with us today. And he's going to share some of the tedious work and projects that he's involved with here. Yeah.
And actually, our first, if you will, political person on the show.
Yeah,
We've just we've never done. We've had Alan Paul guys, kind of, because he's in VVA. But this is kind of exciting. This is kind of new grounds for us.
Yeah.
So.
Well, I appreciate the invitation.
But you're used to sitting and talking to people.
So.
No, absolutely. And I've known both of you for many years, and I think probably our big connection was you giving me the opportunity to address the veterans down in the park on Memorial Day or Veterans Day.
Well, we appreciate that, and certainly there's no one any more deserving than you. I think the veterans generally enjoy listening to you. And you keep it short and confined, which is good.
I'll always keep it short.
Yeah,
I'll always keep it short. No, I mean,
make a good preacher.
Yeah. We usually get. We have. It's always a nice program, and maybe it's a good opportunity to tell people that we might be preaching to the choir, but it's a beautiful park and it's a wonderful ceremony, and it's an honor for me to be invited down there. I take it very seriously. I put a lot of thought into what I'm trying to say, and I respect the work you guys put into making that thing a real asset to the community.
Yeah. It's just real, it's high emotion, especially Memorial Day. I've always told people I get nervous when they play the national anthem. So, I mean, that's just me. That it just really, like you said, it really means something, and I'm thank God we have representatives like you that are still out there that are, if you will, doing the right things rather than just a lot of the nonsense that goes on. Especially, nationally, we're at a crisis mode right now.
And taking a rabbit trail for a minute though, talking about the national anthem. You know what has moved me? Have you been watching the Olympics?
Absolutely.
Certainly.
And I'm surprised that these young people, when they play the national anthem, there's tears in their eyes.
Yeah.
Well, can you imagine that? I mean, in a way, they're representing the country much like you did as veterans. And I've said this, and I'll say it again. I always felt like the only thing in my life I regret that I would do differently was I never served my country. And my dad was a veteran, and I went through education at a peacetime, but so not as an excuse, but got caught up in the current of pre-med and med school and training, and just went that direction. And when it was all said and done, I have this hole in my heart from never having served my country. So in a sense, when I ran for office, I felt like that's an opportunity for me to give back to my state, at least. I know it's apples and oranges, but it's always a way for me to show respect. And you talk about politicians, and when I was reviewing some of the things, we talked about a mailer that I sent out, and I went back, the last week or two and kind of looked some information up on that and took some notes. The veterans things we do typically pass with 150 yes votes in this state of Indiana. You know, there's
That's
rarely someone that doesn't agree with what we're doing. We hash it out. We go through the whole routine of making sure it's solid policy and the right thing to do, but it's usually done with consensus opinion. I think the state of Indiana is very proud of honoring our veterans and respecting the service they've done, and then providing a favorable state for veterans to live and work. You know.
Well, you're in service. I mean, you battle with the issues, and you there are enemies or opposition of the things that you want to do. You know, you're in the service.
10%. Or 5%, 2% of what you did. I mean, honestly, but it's a way of saying, hey, I've got a hole to fill, and this is going to be my way of doing it. And part of that is utmost respect and trying to pay tribute on those days in our beautiful park and you know, giving an update. So I really appreciate the invite.
Well, you do a great job of doing that. I mean, and that's kind of one of those thankless jobs that really sometimes, but a lot of people notice that. I mean, they really do.
Okay,
I mean, they just.
Yeah. Well, you know what? It's not thankless, because I feel you can't. I don't feel any better than when I leave there.
Yeah.
You know, when that's done. You know, there's such a dedicated local following, and it's a feel good. It's a feel good experience. You know, everyone's down there. We had the wall just recently, and that was just particularly moving. We had a great crowd down there.
It was probably one of the largest crowds that anybody could ever remember. And part of that, of course, is the wall. The wall's a big draw because we have a lot of Vietnam guys hanging around in Richmond. So it's a real moving week. It's a real, what I want to say, I can't think of the word I'm thinking, reflective type week that you think, that you think back of, God, did I really do that?
And especially for our Gold Star families, the families that lost someone.
Absolutely.
You know,
We have a couple of Gold Star families in Richmond. I don't know exactly how many, but we have some that are there. So, and I think that with what you do, it seems like IDVA's been a little bit more proactive in the way they are in the veteran community also. So I think together that's kind of helped out. And some of the stuff that you've brought out, I brought some information that actually we may talk about for this military assistance program.
Yeah, I made some notes. You know, this
That's
year was
huge.
a short session for us, so we've been done. It's an election year for the House. We're every 2 years, so there's primaries in May. So in a short session, we do 10 weeks by statute, and we're done mid-March.
Oh,
so
wow.
it's been a minute since we've been done. So I had to kind of go back and do a little bit of a review and make some notes and, you know, try to get up to speed. We probably have on the House side 8 or 10 veterans just on our side alone out of 100. And and then, you know, Senator Rotz, who's our senator from this area, he's a veteran. And I don't know how many they have on the Senate side, but and our governor's a veteran. So I think we're wired into a sensitivity towards our veterans community.
Sure.
And the problems they face.
That's all of that's good. And some of these projects that we've gotten, that we've actually worked on, these assistance programs and stuff, if people can get into that, I mean, the biggest problem that from my vantage point anyway, is just people, if they'll recognize they got a problem. You know, that's the hardest thing. It's like the homeless community. For crying out loud, I mean, we talk about the homeless community all the time in this town, and I swear I've never seen, or I've never actually seen a homeless veteran that I couldn't help if he wanted help. But I still don't see a lot of homeless veterans in Richmond. And yet people say, you know, they're all over the place, but for some reason I don't see them.
Well, I think that's one of the problems is visibility. You know, I think there's probably a lot of pride with those veterans, and
Yes.
Oh, I'm
and,
sure, yeah.
with the courage it takes to reach out and ask for help. And I've got a couple examples I can talk about today of situations where people just didn't know there were services available.
Yeah.
You know, and maybe I'll go into one of those. Last session, this 2024 short session, we had Senate enrolled Act 15, and that was it's now a law, but it started on the Senate side as a bill, and it was an effort to raise awareness that there are veterans benefits available. So part of the bill says that any employer that has more than 50 full-time employers has to have a poster display. You've been in workplaces where they have to have OSHA requirements
Sure.
and other postings.
Ethos, we call it,
Yeah.
where we're at, ethos.
And so this bill, or this law now requires these mid to large employers to post an informational sheet that make veterans aware. And it's not only the veteran that might see it or might not see it, but the family or somebody that knows somebody that says, hey, I read on this poster that there are resources that are available for vets, and here's the website or here's the phone number, that there's special help for veterans that have substance use disorder or mental illness. There are tax credits and exemptions and refunds that are a benefit, and
Yeah.
we can talk about some of that. There's educational opportunities for children of veterans.
Yes.
So I liked this bill. I like this law that it's one more requirement for our employers, but the benefit is a simple piece of paper in the workplace
Yeah.
can notify somebody, a son or a daughter that can go home and tell dad, hey, there's something here that I think applies
Right.
to you.
Yeah.
And it's a tiny thing, but it can have a huge, I think, a huge ripple effect.
Very much so,
in the
yeah.
And it
community.
could be something that could encourage a veteran that's employed there to do something that could help that company.
Well, absolutely.
Like going on to get more education. You know?
Well, these veterans oftentimes come back to the community, as you guys know, and they've been through a ton of stress. They've uprooted their family lives, their social lives,
Yes.
and now they got to assimilate back into a community. Indiana's fully dedicated to getting these people in the workforce.
Well, I'm telling you. That's
And
my testimony.
that's something we did. We did last year. I think it was. I might get some of these numbers wrong, but I think it was House Enrolled Act 1034, and it was a job training thing, a way to get veterans plugged back into the workforce in the community. So there's website that has, I think, 550. It's the InVets program. Have you heard of that, InVets?
No.
It's a matching program where we want veterans to either come back to Indiana or relocate to Indiana, and there are 550 employers that are advertised on this website, and you know how the job market is.
Yeah. Sure.
Man, every employer in this community needs solid employees, right?
Exactly.
And who could be more solid than a military individual coming out of their training and bringing these skills, whether it's computer skills
Yeah.
or labor skills or management skills, bring those into the community and add them to a local employer. I mean, it's a huge program, and I'll guarantee you there are people out there that you and I both know that have used this to get into connect with companies in our state and in our area.
Yeah, I think that where I'm at, Cronin, I mean, we're very proactive with the veteran community. In fact, I wouldn't say hands down the veteran would get a job if he applied for it, but I would say then again he'd probably get a job if he applied for it. So, and it depends on what his skill level is. One of the best workers we got when he got started, he was a Marine. He served 14 months in Iraq, I think. And so he didn't really know what to do, but he ended up at our place pretty quick after he got out, and of course he's one of our top guys now. So they're very disciplined.
Well, we talked about we were talking earlier about how selective it is to get into the military in the first place, and I've heard numbers where it's disappointing how many disqualify for the military based on a physical or academic. There's a test to take. There's a physical test to pass to get in. So already you're selecting out a category of people that would be a desirable employee. So
yeah, and most of them, I think that they bring a good work ethic to the table. They don't. Boy, I just can't think of any Marine, but we publicize that at Cronin. We're very proactive when it comes to the veteran community, and they've been really good to me about supporting the veteran community if we need. If somebody needs some help in the community, go out and help them. In fact, we give a certain amount every month to the service office, and then it's up to them. It goes through the auditor to make sure it's clean. So, and then it's up to a veteran. If they need help, they can go in, and they don't have to come into Cronin, if you will. They can go to the service office, and we have a real proactive service office in Wayne County. So they can go in there, and if they need some help financially, it's there to help them. It's the biggest thing is just the person asking for the help. To me, that's the biggest thing, that you see people that you run into people that need help, but they just don't want to ask for the help. They're a little bit backwards about asking for that stuff. So.
Well, it's a sign of weakness to some people, and yet
Exactly.
there's so many things out there. There's a lot of pride, that has to be put on the back burner to reach out and ask for help.
Yeah.
For the hungry, the homeless, someone with a mental health issue, unemployed, whatever situation it is, I'm sure it's a pride thing. And sometimes, the wealth of information that's out there, you can't know everything about everything.
Yeah.
And we have a great veterans community here, but how do you get, like this law I was telling you about posting these things in the workplace? It's just another mechanism of getting information out there so that people know there's a service.
I don't remember when I got out where I come from, if they were proactive veterans. I think because Vietnam was raging, and you was actually not considered very likable if you was a Vietnam guy. So it's not like it is now, where the Iraq guys and everybody's well accepted. The Vietnam guys went through that period of time where, we don't, people didn't associate with Vietnam guys.
Yeah,
So,
that's a shame. Isn't that a shame?
But they were taking their disagreement with the position of the president of the nation, and they were taking that out on us.
Yeah.
And I had the time. In fact, we had a fella who was a part of our Vietnam veterans group, and he was passing. He got real sick, and they had anticipated that probably within a day or so he would pass away, but he was lingering, and they couldn't understand why he was. So I've gone to see him before, but I went to see him and talked to him, and I asked him. I said, I won't mention his name. I said, how are you feeling? What's going on with you? He said, Vietnam. That's all he said. And I said, I understand, brother. And I prayed with him, and I left, and I went to Michigan, got a call, he passed away. He said, the thing, he talked about a little bit about some of the things that he had been involved with and he didn't want to do, but it was part of the mission.
Yeah.
It's part of the mission, yeah.
Well, I'm sure we're seeing a lot of the ramifications of that stuff, and that's why every mental health issue we discuss, the situation of the veterans is high on our mind. We talk about PTSD and some of the newer treatments that are available.
Yep.
It's not just for veterans, but it's largely with veterans in mind, and first responders and people that are dealing with these life and death situations on a regular basis have to internalize all this stress and all. So a lot of the things we're doing just for the general public, I think, hits the nail right on the head in terms of our veteran.
Do they do like medical marijuana? You know, I've talked about this just briefly. Where does that stack up? Where does all that shake out?
Well, it's a huge debate. You know, here we live in a border county. You know, we're right on the Ohio line. I don't know anybody that can't get their hands on product if they need it.
Well, Ohio, it's legal now. So.
Exactly. We're seeing it more and more and more. And yet, you know, so my hard part is my medical training. Everything is evidence-based decision making. You know, everything we did was based on randomized, double-blinded, controlled trials and data. And you know, cannabis falls into this Schedule I drug, so there's no data on it. There's no interaction. How does cannabis interact with blood thinner or with depression medicine? Nobody knows. And so, to me, just the medical part of me, I understand that, hey, it's something that probably has some benefit, and it anecdotally makes people feel good or can make people feel better. But anecdotally can also cause reactions and paranoia, and particularly in some of our younger population. You know, so without any basis for research and study, it's hard for me to validate that. I know it's out there. I encourage people to try things that, you know, safely and in controlled environment as possible. But I'd love to see, you get the federal government now talking about changing the classification of that. And I think that will lift the burden off many of the states that haven't bought into the medical cannabis thing.
That doesn't
From a medical standpoint, you think it makes sense? Does it?
Yeah.
Well, it can. You know, anecdotally, we hear examples of people that got benefit from it. It helped.
Yeah.
It helped them. But like I said, I also hear the other side. And so, let me give you an example of something we talked about at the State House this year. Psilocybin. It's the chemical that's in the mushrooms, and there are some states that have legalized mushrooms out west. Have allowed possession without criminal charges. The FDA has found that there may be some benefit, there likely is some benefit in that chemical, particularly in mental illness. And so they have labeled it a breakthrough therapy, which, consistent with what the state of Indiana has done up to this point, we recognize that the federal government has changed the category. It's a breakthrough therapy. There may be benefit. And so we created the ability of a medical institution to study that, and created a mechanism to capture dollars if individuals wanted to give, or foundations, or if there's money available. We could capture that and then use it to study. And one of the groups that talked to us about great benefit was a veterans group. Some of their mental illness, some of their depression, some of their PTSD, that there may actually be a benefit in this doctor-guided psilocybin therapy.
Right.
So as a state, we've recognized that there's a breakthrough here, a potential breakthrough, and that's very much in line with my medical career, my medical training, this mindset that I've developed over the last 35 years, which it's hard for me to just wash my hands of, you know. I hear from our veteran community all the time in Indianapolis about cannabis and the benefits that
Well, I think you have to be
there.
disciplined. You have to be disciplined with. I know a couple of years back, there was some cannabis stuff floating around, and a couple of the guys wanted to try it. So then what happened, then the VA stepped in and said, okay, if there's anything in the blood system, and they have the right to pull a blood test if they want, if there's anything in the blood system, you just lost all your disability. Okay, so guys would run the risk factor up and then they'd quit 5 days ahead of time till they wouldn't have a problem with it. And I thought, what are we doing with the government if it's good or if it works? We should try to find a way to get that to the veteran community.
Yeah.
Because a couple of these guys had PTSD, I think, a little bit. And if there is such a thing as a little bit of PTSD.
Well, everybody's different as at how they deal with it, how it impacts their lives. It's like depression or hypertension or anything. Fill in the blank. Yeah. You can have mild, you can have severe, disabling.
Right.
So I can just talk about another issue that's out there, and it's the use of hyperbaric oxygen. They got these chambers where they can put people in, and it's enriched oxygen. It uses pressure to get it in their system, and there's some thought that it may be beneficial to veterans or people with PTSD. So there are currently studies underway, like up at Purdue, and as a state, we're trying to not get involved in this healthcare thing, but also sensitive to the idea that, hey, if there's a therapy out there that we can study and see if there's a benefit or not.
Sure.
Oh, you could talk to 5 people that had it that got a benefit, but then you might have 10 that went in that thing and it was a waste of time and money. So we're trying to do it as a controlled study with scientific results and not just hearsay. Oh, I know a guy. Everybody knows a guy.
Yeah,
really.
That got better, got worse.
Sure.
So that's where I kind of use my training and my background, my health stuff to kind of help shape policy.
Hey, okay, guys, we got about a minute and a half.
Okay, so.
Did we get to anything that you want to talk about, Red?
Everything. I think we talked about everything. And there was one other thing that Al wanted me to talk about because it was in one of my mailers or flyers, and it was a bill from this year, House Enrolled Act 1021, and it's the Green Alert Program. So as everybody knows, there's Amber Alert for missing children. There's Silver Alert for missing endangered adults. We started the Green Alert program, and that is for missing and at-risk veterans.
Oh, wow.
It includes military members. It's issued by the state police. It's for veterans, active service. It's for our National Guardsmen. That within 48 hours of someone with that background disappearing, we issue a green alert. And I think we're really one of a handful of states that have.
That'd be interesting to talk about.
We
better. We're going to have to shut down the first section.
He's coming back, okay?
Yeah.
So, all right, well, folks, we got to get out of here. And so thank you for watching Proudly We Serve.
Cronin Toyota and Cronin Nissan are honored to partner with Proudly We Served, as well as the continued support of our local active and retired military veterans across eastern Indiana.